it's the K&A here on a Friday, the Orangebloods Texas Football Channel. That's who we are. I'm Jeff, I think. It's Onwar. I think it's been an interesting last 15 minutes as we try to get the show on the road. Look, this video brought to you by Andy over at myperfectfranchise.net. Find freedom in your next venture. Just use that information on the screen. It stays up the entire show to help you start a new life, should that be something that you're looking for. We're playing buy or sell today, and we basically have done one question in 15 minutes, and then everything else has been surrounded by technical difficulties. So we're back. It's take 3 on War. The questions that we had stacked up are gone. So look, bottom line is, like this channel, even if it doesn't yet deserve to be liked. Subscribe to the channel. We definitely think that's been earned. And let all your friends know whenever we have good videos. Share them on social media, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. In terms of getting started, do you have – there we go. I was going to say, Blake, can you hit us with a buy or sell question to get us started? Buy or sell, going to the SEC really helps Texas recruit California, as many players there want to play in the best conference, and UT and Austin have the closest vibe to a Cali school/town. Buy, Onwar. I'll buy that. I think that, yeah, it helps. I don't know that it's, I don't know that it's the thing that pushes Texas's recruiting into California over the hump in just a transformative way. They've got coaches who are from California. That helps, right? Sark's a Cali guy. Chris Jackson, the new wide receivers coach, is a Cali guy. They've got roots in California. Texas has, for the last 30 years, been a school that when California kids come to visit, they've had a lot of success with those guys. Does the SEC help? Sure. I don't know that it changes the dynamics that much, but it's one more thing for me, Onwar, that's a feather in the cap when Texas goes into California to recruit.
Yeah, I guess it helps. Why would a sell on it, though, Catch, is this. I think what really helps Texas is that, that the Pac-12 is dying. Like, it seemed to be dying a slow death over there. And so if you are, a West Coast kid and you really – you have your USC. But if you really are looking for a place to play – I'm not quite sure you want to stay out west right now, Kat. Like, it looks like there's going to be major conferences, and so maybe to a certain degree it is a buy. But it looks the SEC solid footing right now. Big 10 solid footing. Hell, Big 12 solid footing. And right now, if you're not a part of that, you're just kind of gambling and hoping and praying. So maybe it's a buy for me, Catch, only because I just don't know what the future of the Pac-12 really holds. But it doesn't look like they're going to have that kind of luster as, all the other conferences do.
Paul wants to know, buy or sell. Onwar is elated to not be doing shows with Catch for the next 2 weeks.
That's a sell.
It's a half buy, right? Because half that time's you on vacation.
Well, so yeah, if it's a personal, dig at Catch, then it's a sell. If it's I actually have a week off, then no, that's the buy. That's a hell of a buy to say, hey man, I am literally going to unplug, and whatever happens. So that portion of the buy to say I got a full week off and I am going to try to live my best life, absolutely kid free, Catch. Oh, it's a hell of a buy.
I'm with you on that. Although I will miss you in a week.
Yeah.
I won't miss you on Monday because I'm going to be traveling. The last thing in the world I want to think about is the show that I'm not doing when I'm got the kids in the car and they're annoying me and my daughter's asking me to put it on Kids Bop Kids. And no, but in a week, I will definitely be missing you. Ben says, buy or sell the football. And Onward, this is a question you can jump in on because you essentially started working at Orangebloods right at the moment when Mac left. So buy or sell, the football program is in a better place than it was when Mac left? This is an easy buy.
I'm going to buy. Here it's a buy for me for this specific reason, right, Catch? I'm feeling good about the quarterback room and feeling like, that room has just been tragic, and that's what I did on my show on Wednesday, just going through, all the guys from David Ash until now, right? And you just told yourself it's just been like, one bad, thing after another. So feeling good about that, feeling good about the offensive line and what that kind of looks like. So I feel really, really good, Catch, from a talent standpoint, where it's going and where recruiting is, and knowing that there's still recruiting momentum, and feeling good about that. So I would say it's definitely from a recruiting and talent perspective. That's my buy.
Yeah, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, if nothing else, the quarterback room when Matt departed was David Ash in a precarious should he play or should he not play kind of mode, and then Tyrone Swoops. And at this exact moment, Texas has 3 quarterbacks who might play on Sundays. And to be fair, Tyrone Swoops got a little cup of coffee in the NFL as an actual Sunday player playing a different position. If Texas only had one of Quinn Ewers, Maalik Murphy, Arch Manning, only one of those 3, you could make the case with talking about nothing else that the program's in a better position than it was when Matt departed. That they have all 3 makes this a real slam dunk decision, because at the quarterback position, Texas would appear to be mostly settled for the rest of the decade. I mean, it's only 2023, but if you even go deep into the recent 2025 commitment of KJ Lacey, you're talking about a kid that by the time he takes over, after presumably Arch Manning finishes his career, you really could have the entire decade mapped out at the quarterback position at a high level, whereas really that's something that Texas searched for quite a bit, even after Mac departed.
By the way, Catch, you mentioned Swoops, who eventually kind of switches out of that position and kind of run that 18-wheeler package his final season. Gerard Hurd has to switch to a receiver position, and Roschon Johnson has to switch to running back, right? So those are 3 recruits, Catch. And again, I don't have the numbers in front of me to show how often that happens. I get the feeling, though, Catch, if we looked at most programs, you probably wouldn't have 3 of your premier recruits within a short time span switching to other positions at the quarterback position.
You know what? I can make the case that now is the perfect time for Texas to have a Tyrone Swoops, right? When you can talk me into losing the running backs that they've lost when you're in short yardage situations. I'm really fascinated by what Paul Chryst brings to Texas from an offensive standpoint, even if it's some little subtle changes. And one of the things he was really known for at Wisconsin was his power run game, short yardage lineups. You could put 7 offensive linemen on the field and Tyrone Swoops behind them, and I'd feel pretty confident that on 4th and 1, Texas would get a yard. Not saying you'd play Tyrone Swoops over anybody else the other times, but you could talk me into, instead of a wildcat formation, going to the jumbo package with Swoops in this world where they now have an offensive line that they feel much better about. There's more mass. They've got more guys that they can do things with. I think if you look across the program in general, yes, it's a healthier place than it was when Mac left. But Mac left, to be fair, Mac left the program in a year where they win. They were 30 minutes away from winning the Big 12 championship in 2013, but the program was on stilts. It was a house of cards, and I think the difficulty that Texas has had since then to truly take off and lift into flight is an example of just how much work has needed to be done. And I think Steve Sarkisian and his staff deserve a lot of credit. They're so much closer to being a big boy football program than probably Texas has been in the last 10 years. With all due respect to Tom Herman and what he and his staff did, this feels like a more complete group of position groups, the overall depth, the quarterback position. Now all they have to do is win. Buy or sell.
I'm now that you explain it, because when you said it was an easy buy, I was actually surprised you said that. And here's the reason why I'm surprised, and I don't want to derail it too far, but when you explain it as far as what you think of the totality of the program is, I get it, because I feel like if you said, hey, to coach a game on a Saturday or a bowl game, I feel like you would take Tom over Sarkisian based off of observations that you've made.
And I would take Mac over both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the program as a whole, I'm thinking about Mac leaves. What is the state of the program that he leaves behind? And I think from what Charlie Strong inherited as a program to where it is now, I think it's in a much better place than when Mac left. Mac would win games, but I think there was some he fired his defensive coordinator in his last year. But they bring in Greg Robinson in that last year. He's the best defensive coordinator that Texas has ever had. And so it helped mitigate some of the, I think, concerns that existed. I think there are fewer concerns about the program than there was a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
There are questions about Sark, though. So, I think if he answers those, this thing's going into the stratosphere. Because if Sark hits his stride, starts developing the quarterbacks the way that his history suggests that he can, he's been able to get the other pieces of the program in a place that you can see where this program can win a lot of games and sustain it. That's the other thing. Texas, when Sam was a junior or a senior, you felt like there were windows. Oh, man, you better – if you don't do it now – well, think about when Sam's career ended. There was a sense of, if not now, when? And I think there's not quite – I just got finished talking about you can close your eyes and imagine this program having plus quarterback play all the way through the rest of the decade. That's kind of – you're on your way to winning a lot of games if you can pull that off. And I do think they're there. Buy or sell, this is an interesting one. Buy or sell, the Texas run game looks like the bowl game and causes the passing game to suffer again.
I mean, I would sell on that one for me, Catch. I don't necessarily get the connection. There's a couple of things. I don't think the run game causes the pass game to suffer. I mean, because I don't think any of us felt like Bijan, and Roshan over the past couple of years, like that was problematic at any point. And so I would sell on that. I think the run game will be – I don't think it's going to be what we've seen before. Like I'm just not totally convinced that you can just plug and play and that you just automatically replace a top 10 NFL draft pick and another guy who's drafted in the fourth round. Like I'm just not 100% convinced on that. But, will they have a 1,000-yard rusher? Probably, but, I'm not 1,400, 1,500, anything crazy. Like, you get over 1,000, something to that effect. But I'm okay with the run game. I'm just not standing on the table thinking to myself, like a lot of other people, that it's just plug and play.
I'll also sell. I don't think we're going to see the Texas run game look like it did in the bowl game all season. I think that was a bit of a one-off, kind of an unusual situation in that it was, at the end of the season. This is a program now that's had 9 months to move on. You've got the maturation at other positions. I do think there's an interesting conversation to be had about just how – I think there's a thought process that the Texas offensive line is a strength and that it's ascending to a point that's new territory. And I think I have more questions about the offensive line. I saw a stat a couple of weeks ago, and I'm so mad. You ever see a tweet that's got information in it that's so good that you know that you should either bookmark it or retweet it or like it or something because you want to use that data? A couple of weeks ago, that happened. Somebody produced a chart, and it was like the last 20 years of running backs. And the stat was the running backs across the country that were the best yards after contact. What was fascinating about that is Bijan was like off the charts. He might have even been number 1, but Roschon was like number 4. So in the history of college football over the course of the last 20 years, when you talk about yards after contact as a metric, Bijan and Roschon were both elite of the elite in the last 20 years at that very thing. That's a stat that we saw it in the bowl game. When you don't have elite of the elite guys who can make yards after contact, the running game can shut down. It is a real indicator of, look, Texas was great at left tackle, and they're going to be great at left tackle this year. They're pretty good at right tackle. The middle of that offensive line last year was not good, but it's full of young guys. It's full of players that you feel like will develop and get better. The problem is I don't know where the margins meet. So they're going to get better, but there's no way to get around the fact that last year's running game featured elite of the elite players who specialize in overcoming poor offensive line play. So I have questions. I have more questions about the running game than I do about the passing game. I think Texas is going to be fine, really good in the passing game. I don't quite know what to think about the running game and just how good it's going to be, but it's not going to look like the ball game. So where it ultimately gets will aid and assist the passing game, but I don't see – I understand the correlation that Horn is suggesting exists. It does, but I kind of refute the idea that we're going to see what we saw against Washington again, thus causing the trickle-down effect of teams being able to put an extra guy in pass defense and not needing to really sell out against the run. And I feel like Texas is going to be okay. But Hornets, not a bad question. And I was going to say it leaves us in a place where there's actually a lot of meat on the bone to talk about with regards to the Texas running game since the bowl game.
Yeah, and all I would say when we think about the passing game suffering in the bowl game, I think we cannot ignore the two things that happened, which was missed throws and drop passes. So that had nothing to really do with the run game. Dropping the pass has nothing to do with the run game. Missing throws has nothing to do with the run game either. So I feel for me, when I look back at that Washington game, there were other factors that led to some of the struggles, I think, within the passing game.
Buy or sell. And I bring this one up. Someone texted me this earlier today. Maalik Murphy, QB1, ? Can I take this first on, War?
Yes, because I don't know the context of this question, but go ahead, Russ.
Saying Maalik Murphy QB1 right now.
2023?
Yes, I believe that's Russell's question.
Okay, Russ, go ahead, Catch. You go.
Sell. Look, I love the upside of Maalik Murphy and Arch Manning, but the benefit of last season is that Quinn Ewers was able to get maybe not all of, but a lot of the trial and error and the testing that young quarterbacks have to go through out of the way. One of the exciting things about this season is that Texas has an NFL talent at quarterback who's gone through some of the trials and tribulations already. The hope of this team is that what Ewers went through a year ago better prepares him for what he's going to go through this season. And that hopefully has Texas in a place to compete for a Big 12 championship. As much as I love Maalik Murphy's upside and Arch Manning's upside, if those two players are asked to play significant loads and snaps this season, you're going right back into the process from a year ago where you got to accept that those guys have to learn a little bit and that there's going to be some ups and downs. The ups and downs from a year ago, that's supposed to be the foundation that allows for fewer downs and more ups this season. So, Russell, I completely reject the idea that anyone other than Quinn Ewers should be the quarterback in 2023. And if for some reason we get to a point where if in 3 or 4 months from now onward, people are like finding this clip of audio and they're playing it back and like, ha, you said Quinn Ewers should be the guy, but you were wrong. That is such a bad indicator of where this season might go. You really need to hope I'm right about this one.
Yeah, and the thing is, you want, as I'm writing it down, you want consistency at this position. Like, I think you want guys, who are on the back burner, kind of cooking and getting ready to come on and do bigger and better things. You want Maalik Murphy, who, yes, he's had a good spring, but you still that doesn't necessarily mean you throw him out there right away. And what you don't want to do, Russ, you don't want to go Hudson Card as your opening day starter to then Casey Thompson. Then last year you had Quinn, who's your starter. Hudson kind of comes in when there's an injury, and then go Maalik Murphy. That would be four starters within 3 seasons for Steve Sarkisian. That's a bad look. What you really want to say is get the most out of Quinn this year. Have Maalik learn, idealistically, Maalik comes in the Rice game, plays, most of the third quarter, half of the third quarter, most of the fourth quarter. And then, of course, he plays a lot in the Wyoming game. And then you have other chances for him to play. But, the goal within the building is to have Maalik ready for next season. Like, that's the ultimate goal for him. And so if you can have that, it's okay. And I think if you look at some other programs that have been able to do that, it's okay to have a good quarterback sit, and then and when his time goes, he balls out.
Our guy Damon Chandler jumps in and says buy or sell on Jonte Cook being the best out of a wide receiver group that includes him, Evan Stewart, and Micah Hudson.
Oh, you go first on this one, because this is Micah is still, a recruit. Evan Stewart, done a little bit at A&M, so you give me what you think.
The thing is, I've rated all these guys as 5 stars. So we're talking about a trio of elite of the elite of the. They're super prospects. They all should be high NFL draft picks. Otherwise, they shouldn't be 5 stars. So buying Cook as the best, I feel like I'm looking at that Alabama roster from a year ago, and it's like, well, who's better, Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith? It's like, what amazing rich people problems to have. I'll say buy, but it's a baby buy, because Evan Stewart, I think, is going to be a phenomenal football player. Evan Stewart not playing at A&M a year ago as a freshman All-American. He played at a school that had really bad quarterback issues a year ago, but he was still, because trust me, I used him on our prize picks, and every time I thought he would go under because they would set a low number, he'd end up with like 60, 70 yards receiving. And it was like, he's doing that really easily without any quarterback help. I'll say buy, but there's not a lot of conviction in my buy. I think all 3 have a chance to be spectacular college players and very high NFL draft picks.
Yeah, I'll my only buy on it will be, to your point, Catch, I think Jonte will end up with better quarterback play throughout his career. Now, I don't know where Micah's going to go, so that's to be determined. But right now, I think Jonte will have better quarterback play than Evan Stewart will, and then we'll see what happens with Micah. So to me, I'm with you. It's a soft buy. It's a soft buy. It's a hell of a question, though. Like, It
Well,
is.
but Anwar, when he says being the best, are we thinking best college player or like the guy that in 20 years from now we look back on after NFL careers are over with and say that guy was the best?
Let's go Biletnikoff. Who's got the best chance of that group to win a Biletnikoff or be a finalist?
Probably Cook because of what you mentioned with the quarterback play. Although A&M fans would say, whoa, whoa, whoa. We like our guy, Connor Weigman, to be a big-time player every bit as much as Texas likes their quarterbacks.
Fair.
Which is fair. Again, whatever the margins end up being on this, I think they're going to be very narrow. I think we may be looking back on this, and it will be a very similar who was better on that Alabama team, Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. Both guys are monsters. And I think, I think that we're going to see that I think all three of these guys are going to be monsters. The interesting thing is the math suggests that they don't always hit. Which, if you had to pick one of the three to be a complete bust, like if you were to say who's going to end up being the worst of the three, I think the smart money's probably on Micah, simply because we've seen Evan Stewart already have enough success. And as an athlete, he's probably the best of the three. We've already seen Jonte Cook on a college campus kind of wowing people. So if you had to pick a guy who wasn't going to be the most successful, I might pick Micah simply because the other two guys are a little bit more proven at the next level, whereas Micah's still in high school.
Yeah, I think, that's a great, but I will say with you, Evan Stewart's pretty damn good. Like he's pretty, that dude's the truth. Like you can hate on the Aggies all you want to, you want to hate on them as an institution, that's fine. But as an individual, he is a baller.
He may be weird, right? Like we're old dudes, and like in 2023, guys are just cut from a different cloth. Mm-hmm. So he's a little out there, but I kind of like that about him. I like that he's kind of weird, but I also like that he's kind of fantastic as a talent too. Yeah. You'll find no hating from these two hosts on Evan Stewart as a player. Matador Mike, and I guess this is a Texas Tech fan jumping in. So thanks for your contributions, Mike. Would you prefer a 1,200-yard rusher and 1,000-yard rusher? It's not really a buy or sell question, but it's okay. We'll deal with it. Or a 500-yard rusher and two 1,000-yard receivers. Something different. Texas Tech and UT in the title. Well, let's start here. I think I'm having a hard time with this question, Anwar, because I don't know in this situation of the buy or sell. So on one side, you've got a 500-yard rusher and two 1,000-yard receivers. And in the other, you have a 1,200-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver. In the question, it doesn't let us know what this mystery third person does in the scenario where it's 1,200 yards and 1,000 yards. I'm going to do it for Mike. Since he used 500, I'll do the same thing. So you get a 1,200-yard rusher, a 1,000-yard receiver, and a 500-yard receiver, or a 500-yard rusher and 2,000-yard receivers. You're taking the 1,200-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver, right?
I mean, I like his math. But here, you know what? Probably not.
Because you want the 2,000-yard receivers?
Yeah, and I'm going to blame you for this.
Okay.
It's your fault. It's literally your fault.
I'm okay with that. No matter how you explain this, I'm okay with the responsibility.
You have ruined me forever when it comes to looking to running back productivity and correlating that with success in college football. Like, in the NFL, running, an elite running back usually means good things for you, right? But I've seen it. Too. I saw a 2,000-yard rusher catch. I saw Deontay Foreman every single game. And I saw a 5-win team in a loss versus Kansas. So you can tell me all this about your running backs and how elite that they are. And look, at the end of the day, I mean, Bijan, he's as two really good running backs that get drafted, but both of that Texas wins 8 games that season. With Bijan as a top 10 pick, with Roschon Johnson. So you've killed it for me.
I tell you what, you tell me nothing else about this team other than Texas has 2,000-yard receivers this year, and I assume that they're at least playing for the Big 12, at least. Yeah. Because historically, Texas only had like 5 or 6 players that have ever had 1,000-yard seasons. They've never had a team where they've had 2 on the same team. Mm-hmm. So I think that gets you there. Now, to fulfill the totality of Mike's question, this is in part because I kind of like this. What do you think about Texas Tech and UT in the title game?
I think it's a nice, sexy pick, and I'm here for it. I like it, because in this conference, there seems to be a team that kind of rises seemingly every year, kind of from the ashes, and all of a sudden you're looking at the Kansas States of the world, that or the Baylor of the world. Like we've seen this happen year in and year out, where you've had that one team that you lean on, and there's this other team that you're just like Iowa State. You're just like, oh snap, where did this come from? So I'm okay with. Okay, who would be my dark horse team? Texas Tech, absolutely.
The question is Texas Tech enough of a dark horse team? Because they were pretty good last year. So what has happened the last few years is that do your Big 12 media poll and then take a look at the last 3 teams in the media poll before the season and pick one of those 3 teams, because that's what's been happening lately. You can make the case that Texas Tech, and Texas for that matter, aren't dark horses enough that you almost need to be more destitute than 8 wins, which Texas Tech and Texas were both able to do. Here's one.
Can I ask a question, though?
Yeah.
Along that line, this is going to be mind blown, and I don't want Texas fans to go into the weekend like pissed off at Anwar, pissed off at Unc. I know, you like to smile.
You're going on vacation. What do you care? No, I am. Never mind.
You're going on vacation. That's what I got to deal with everybody for another week.
You're right.
Can Texas be viewed as a dark horse team?
No.
They're
like in preseason top 10 for some people.
Okay, but based off of a lot of high expectations, but if a team hasn't won a Big 12 title since 2009, we can't do that? We can't do that. You're not going to accept that?
I will not accept Texas as the underdog story this year.
We can't make a Disney movie out of this?
You can make a Disney movie out of it, but the Disney part of the movie will be all of the last decade.
Yeah.
You can't with a straight face, be like, and look, I kind of think that about Texas Tech though too. I mean, they won, I think. I have to go back. I don't have the Texas Tech thing memorized, but they finished last season really hot. They won like their last 5 games or so. They win their bowl game. They beat Texas and Oklahoma in the same seasons. So I don't even know that they're more underdogish than Texas. And I don't even know that I completely view Texas Tech as the thing is, if we take Texas and Texas Tech out of the equation, there's no team remaining that feels like an absolute strong bet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you pick Oklahoma. Nobody's really expecting TCU to repeat themselves. Nobody's expecting Baylor to come back to where they were 2 years ago. The new schools are so hard to know what to think.
Yeah.
Is Cincinnati or BYU going to be a team that going into November is pushing Texas? I don't know. So Texas Tech and Texas feel like the 2 teams I can't buy as underdog stories in the Big 12. In a year when there's not really a favorite, they're as good as anybody else, considering the Kansas State. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to think. So we'll just have to. This season's a bit of a mystery. And to be fair, the Big 12 in the last couple of years, ever since Oklahoma lost their chokehold on their streak of Big 12 titles, I don't know. Anything goes.
Yeah.
Buy or sell from Chris. If I tell you that the Texas quarterback has a 167 quarterback rating this year, you would book your conference championship game tickets.
Yes. Buy. Like buy.
Yes.
That's an easy buy for me.
I agree, but I wanted to make it on the record. Chris, I'll go a step further.
Uh-oh.
If Quinn Ewers finishes the season with a 167 rating and he stays healthy, he's gonna have. He will be he'll be first team All Big 12 in all likelihood, and I think might have a chance to go to New York with 167. That means he's probably a top 15 quarterback in the country, and I think a lot of team success would come with that kind of number. Let me see. Let me find another buy or sell. Okay. I skipped Vivek B's first question, but this one's interesting. Buy or sell. Sark should be doing even better in recruiting if our NIL is enough to worry other teams and we are at the forefront. The thing is, they went third in the country last year. The thing is, last year's recruiting class was the best since 2002.
Yeah.
Now, should they be doing better in recruiting this year? Maybe, because you're judging it off of what happened a year ago. But at some point, the honeymoon in recruiting ends a little bit. Teams want to see you actually have the success that you're preaching. This year's a little weird. Plus, there are other schools who are super competitive. OU's more competitive than I would have guessed. I'll go with a baby buy, but not a big enough buy, Anwar, that I'm going to indict the staff or Sark as failures in recruiting. I'll buy it from the sense that this year's class doesn't look as strong as last year's class, and maybe it could be better. But I like the question, but I'm not going to set Sark on fire.
So here's why I'm going to sell, and because I think there's two aspects of recruiting, Catch, which is especially in the era of NIL, right? There's the acquisition and then there's retention, okay? And the retention portion might be just as important as the acquisition portion, which is keeping the guys on your program that other guys in other programs are trying to get and trying to obtain. So to me, Catch, I haven't really seen major losses in recruiting under Sarkisian. Like I haven't seen major losses in recruiting. I haven't seen a ton of guys, but you've said to yourself, damn, they lost out on those guys, and those guys are potential program changers. Kind of like the way we looked at, Quinn in the Myers under Herman, and said to yourself, like, damn, now where do you go? So I feel like, especially where here we are in June, like I can't trip out. At this point, Sark has earned enough benefit of the doubt that even though we look at the recruiting numbers, he always says, Catch, I can get guys if I want to, but I'm just holding out for the big fish. And so far, he's been able to nab more than he's lost. And they've also kept guys from losing as well. So that's why it's a sell for me. I think overall, he's been doing pretty good as relates to NIL acquisition and retention.
Blake, did you have another question there a second ago? Buy or sell, at least one summer enrollee is a starter by the end of the season.
We went through that list. Hell, the punter, right? That's an easy one, right?
He can't be including maybe if look on a technicality by the punter. if we eliminate the punter.
Okay.
Because I bet he's talking more along the lines of the recruits more so than Trill Carter and the punter.
I think it's a sell for me, Catch, because that would the only way I can see it happening, Catch, would be injuries, which it will be kind of hard to predict. But I don't know which guys coming in the summer that I'm saying to myself, oh my God, even when you see like, oh well, Ryan Niblett, it was clocked at over 20 miles per hour while he's running. I'm like, well, that's a great achievement. And Ryan Niblett might be really good down the line, but there's a lot of guys in front of him right now. So I look at a lot of the different guys. Someone mentioned Jelani McDonald. I don't know if I'd sell on that one. I can't think of one offhand.
I'm with you. If I had to pick one, maybe Derek Williams is that good, and by the end of the year, he's at that kind of a level. But I think we learned our lesson a little bit last year. If you're not Kelvin Banks level good, and there's not an open position to go along with that, it becomes very difficult. The problem with the guys coming in right now is that there aren't obvious places of need where it's like, we got to get that guy on the field no matter what. And Kelvin Banks, in a weird way, Texas got lucky that guy's as freakish as he is, because there's an alternative universe out there where he was just average last year, because that's kind of what you expect from young offensive linemen who've only been on campus for like 6 weeks. So I'm going to say, I'm with Onwar. I'm going to sell. But I like the question. Here's another one. I like this question from Buck Wild. We would be, buy or sell, we would be talking about Jordan Whittington as a probable first rounder if he'd stayed injury-free his entire college career.
Sell.
I agree.
And here's why I would sell on that, Buck, is he was injury-free last year. And he had 1 touchdown reception, if I'm correct, Catch. So, when you start thinking, when we start talking about draft picks and you start looking at like, okay, the number of guys who are actually just drafted alone compared to the number of guys who actually play college football, and you look at that percentage, it's really small. I think we take for granted how hard it is to get drafted or get selected in the NFL draft. It's not as easy as you may or may not think. First round, you're talking about him being one of the top 2 to 3 guys in the nation, like in the country. We're talking like Jordan Addison kind of performance in order to climb into that. And I just don't know if that's what Jordan Whittington is, as a college player. Right now, to me, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he gets drafted going into it. I still think he has to prove himself as a guy and show teams that I have the opportunity. I'm worthy enough to get selected, let alone start talking about day one.
Forget about the injuries for a second. I haven't seen an athlete with the level of explosiveness out of Jordan yet that makes me think first round. Honestly, Jordan's very little Jordan Humphrey-ish as an athlete. They're both kind of similar builds. I think you'd have to say Jordan's a poor man's little Jordan Humphrey at this point. But little Jordan didn't test well, didn't get drafted. I think what we don't know about Jordan yet, and look, nobody's going to root more for Jordan than Anwar and I. I mean, if you told me right now, I don't even know what I'm going to say other than I root for nothing but success for Jordan. He's my favorite player in the program. But I can't lie and say that since he's been on campus, there's ever been a moment where I was like, holy shit, that guy's going to be a starter on Sundays. And that's what his first round draft pick is. It's a guy that walks in and starts day one in the NFL.
Yeah.
And we can't say that about Jordan in good faith. Let's see. What do we got? Buy or sell?
And just add into that, and not to pile on, I mean, most people are talking about Xavier Worthy, being a first round pick or, in that realm. Now you're talking about, me, Catch. If you start, so you say first, I would always you got to give a cushion, right? Especially preseason, stuff like that. I'm always giving myself a cushion. So first to day 2 is probably going to be where his range is. People talk about Jordan Addison, AD Mitchell. But we still, now you talk about a third guy off the team. That's tough.
This might be our best buy or sell question of the day.
That's one about my Rays.
This one comes from Skip Diggity, which, by the way, awesome YouTube chat name.
Yeah.
If Ewers faces a prolonged injury, and he writes in parentheses 5+ weeks, whomever steps in and takes the reins never relinquishes them.
That's a fascinating.
I told you, it might be the best question that we've had.
I'm gonna. All right. Let's say this thing that shouldn't happen happens against Alabama. Okay, let's go there.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's easier to say that than you can say like the last 5 games of the season, right? So it's got to be early, right? For this question to work. That's a great question, because I don't know Sark's philosophy over hot hand versus, my number one guy. Like, do you stay with the hot hand or not? Like that. It's a good question, because I don't know we've ever known that.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Sell. Ewers gets the job back, because presumably Quinn Ewers right now in his development is ready to play in these games. Whereas a year ago, we weren't sure. What we don't know in Skip Diggity's account of all of this is how the player who steps in and taking the reins is playing. So he's leaving that up for me to kind of think about. And in my mind, I'm thinking about Hudson Card. I'm thinking about Quinn from a year ago. And we're probably looking at a guy who's a little up and down. And in a world where you're bringing in a quarterback with 0 experience, and he's playing conference games, and that's Texas OU, and there's a lot baked into that, I think Sark puts Ewers back on the field.
What if he has looked like Caleb Williams?
Well, then you're sticking with Caleb Williams.
Okay.
So if Maalik or Arch were to come in and they're putting up better numbers than Quinn was, then that's a different conversation piece. It's a worst case scenario for Ewers, because at that point you can't go to the NFL. You've lost your job. And I don't know that he could transfer right away unless he's a grad transfer. So he could transfer again, but he had to sit out a year in a world where he's already used up his 1 transfer. So that's the nightmare scenario for Ewers. But I think they would go back to Quinn. The problem is, if Quinn were to have any type of prolonged injury this year on War, it might mean he has to come back another year.
Yeah, I don't even want to have that conversation.
I mean, if he plays 6 games, even if he's legit lights out incredible, maybe he can still go. But I feel like he needs more than 6 games. They really need him to stay healthy. And yet we all know that health at the quarterback position is a total crapshoot. And I can't even guarantee you that he's going to come out of the Alabama game healthy, given that every time these 2 teams play, Alabama hurts a Texas quarterback. So there's a big conversation to be had there. It's all depressing. So let's
It's all on. Bad. Everything bad.
It's all like, let me tell you what, in that scenario, Texas probably isn't playing in the Big 12 championship game. So let's not go rooting for these 5-game absences.
By the way, I think that was a low-key Maalik Murphy question from the Maalik Murphy fan club.
The Maalik Hive?
Is that what we're gonna call them?
Well,
like the beehive?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Maalik hive. How
Like
about
it.
this one from our guy Rodolfo? He's almost always first. He's not first with the chat questions, but buy or sell, Xavier Worthy won't be appreciated till he's home/gone, I'm guessing. He's putting up all-time great numbers at Texas. You know how I feel about this.
What's home? I don't know what that home means.
I think gone is how I took it. He won't be appreciated till he's gone.
Okay.
Well, Rodolfo's young, so maybe home is like the new hip word for young, like gone. I don't know.
I mean, we could probably I could be really lame and pull up Urban Dictionary to see if it's in there. But if it's look, I think at the end of the day, I think that is fair as far as that. I mean, I don't, my hope for this season is that Xavier can go out on a high note, and all the BS and the attacks and a lot of negativity that he received last year, that's not a repeat of it, and that he could just enjoy what should be his fun years, right? Because the next level is more business like than anything else. This is kind of like the last of the innocent years, and I think there was too many Texas fans last season that kind of showed their ass and said shit to a young man that you probably shouldn't be saying. So, my hope for him is that he actually can get appreciated this season, and not be the person that everyone points the finger to and says that's the reason why things aren't working out. I think he kind of, at the end of the day, when you still look at 19, 20-year-olds, sometimes the older people in the room need to kind of set the example.
Paxton has an interesting comment on this that I actually am going to lean on. He will be appreciated this year. Big year. Paxton, I think you're right. I mean, the season that I thought he was going to have a year ago, he didn't have for a variety of reasons. The thing about Xavier, man, that you just at the college level you cannot put a price on. The dude gets open. I have been covering Texas football for 30 years. I have never seen a receiver at the Texas program get as wide ass open all the time consistently as Xavier Worthy does. And even forget about a year ago when Quinn and him had a hard time connecting on deep balls. I think back to that video that showed up on YouTube or on Twitter, Anwar, before the season, and it was all the times Worthy was wide open and either Hudson Card or Casey Thompson missed him.
Yeah.
It was like a 3-minute mixtape. And it was like, well, he had double-digit touchdowns and he was almost at 1,000 yards. My God, what would the numbers have looked like had they just hit open receivers? I think this year he has better numbers, a bigger year, such a big season that Texas fans won't be able to ignore just how good he is. It ended, I think, back to the middle of last season, the very first time he showed bad body language. And I called him out on it, and I think it caught you by surprise because it wasn't like on our agenda of things to talk about. It was kind of a throwaway remark on a Monday overreaction show. And my whole thing was, careful, Xavier, because if you do that consistently, people will flip it on you and they'll make you the bad guy instead of, oh, Xavier's frustrated, but it's justifiably so because his quarterback's not hitting him. The first time it happens, fans had a little bit of there was a little bit of acceptance.
Yeah.
But that it happened enough times, fans will eventually get tired of that and they won't care if there's a reason for it. They don't want to see it. There's too many people that look at these guys and they think He's making all this money. He's playing Texas football. He's a rock star. The girls love him, right? There's this idea of what college athletes are, and fans are not conditioned to see guys with the things that they dream of, seemingly not appreciating them on the field. And I was right. In the end, it happened enough that now we've gone through this entire offseason, and Xavier is a guy that still gets hated on. And it all goes back to like, the body language. And then the last thing remember of Xavier is in the last game of the season, he drops a couple of really big passes. And now the narrative has almost been, well, he sucks. And it's like, there's a lot to this conversation. But the bottom line is Xavier has to mature a little bit. And if we don't see the angst, the visible body language angst this year, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. And I think people will wake back up to him as a guy that they're excited to watch and cheer for. And Paxton mentions the broken hand. Ain't nobody. I've seen very few Texas fans that have had time for the broken hand thing. I don't. It may vary. You know what I say on where sometimes an excuse is just the reason why something happens. Texas fans ain't got time for that. They haven't.
They haven't wanted to hear it. So here's hoping that, 2023, that we're doing a video next year and it's all about the positives.
All right. Last buy or sell question of today.
Yes. And then you can get on vacation, buddy.
Hold on. Here we go. From David. Jake Majors' experience at center is enough to keep his job over a stronger, more talented replacement.
Buy. Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, it's just that simple from the center position, and you don't want to take too many risks and gambles at that position, as it's pretty important. So no, it's a buy, and you he's had enough reps, and he's been in enough big games where yes, Jake Majors is fine and Jake Majors is solid. And yes, we nearly went an hour without the dogs, man. Like nearly an hour. I'll miss that. It's either the dogs for you or Jason's home phone ringing. Like we know one of the two have got to, or I guess for me, Spectrum going out at some point. Like we all got our thing.
On literally the last 60 seconds of the last video before I take a week off, it would have been really, it wouldn't, we needed this symbolic dog barking to take us off. Guys, we've really appreciated it. Do us a solid. I haven't mentioned it since we started. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all those things. First and foremost, just like the video, click that little thumbs up button. I watched another video earlier today on where there was like a young, I don't know how old she was. It was a younger woman. And she was like, smash that like button. And I was like, there it is. Smash. That is the word that the cool kids use. Have you ever heard your kids say smash?
Yeah, usually after they break shit in my house. Oh.
It's like that old Onyx song, except instead of slam.
Yeah.
Smash.
Hey, can I, before you get out of here, before you go on vacation?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a 1 minute buy or sell question?
Yeah.
Just 1 minute. Just totally off topic, but on my new topic, okay? Buy or sell, you were shocked that Messi signed with an MLS team.
No. So it had been talked about for years. And dudes love Spanish-speaking dudes love Miami.
No.
And so as long as it was Miami, and because the thing is, like, because I follow international soccer on Twitter, I get the vacation photos on my timeline all the time. And these dudes, when they get a week off, they all go to Miami. So I wasn't shocked.
You wasn't shocked they turned out $1 billion?
I was a little shocked after I heard that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
there had been so much discussion about Messi being in the MLS that when it happened, that didn't shock me. Now, I was a little shocked later to learn that the final offer was something like $1.6 billion. Real quick, though, what's interesting about this, Anwar, buy or sell for you? So the reason why this has worked is that Apple is giving Messi like subscription revenue rights. He's getting apparel rights.
Yes.
So if everything moving forward that Inter Miami sells, he's getting a cut of that. Like they've given him equity in companies like Apple. And there's also the chance that he might potentially be given when David Beckham got the Miami franchise. Part of the deal when he arrived was they told him he would at one point have the ability to buy an MLS franchise for $25 million. That they would let him in as an owner at the cost of $25 million. That franchise is now worth almost $1 billion.
Damn.
So my question, buy or sell, is this will eventually be the wave of the future in professional sports.
Well, buy. Yeah. I mean, it's, there are ways, creative ways. Now, I feel like we've seen it before where, coaches maybe get a certain thing. I think the Bucks are trying to set up Brady in a certain way to that degree. But yeah, and where it really works is like this thing here where, hey, because look, my kids who love Messi, if they've got the, and I checked the schedule. The Austin FC plays them, but it's on the road. I mean, now my kid was like, man, I got the opportunity to go see Messi. Dad, we can go. Like, we're not talking about traveling overseas. We're just talking about going to another state now. And so, yeah, and now it's like, hey, we can't afford to pay you that salary, but here's what we can give you, which is ownership, right? And that ownership component, that says something else. I mean, because MJ, when he was with the Wizards, wasn't that kind of the deal, Catch? Was that
it's trickier in salary cap situations?
Yeah,
because it's revenue. You know what I mean? It's difficult there. I wonder if baseball isn't the first major team sport outside of MLS in America where the Yankees could give Mike Trout 1% of the Yes Network. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud. It really starts with boxing, though. Guys like Mayweather paved the path for this idea of you're not the athlete, you're the actual business. And I wonder how far away we are. I think about if LeBron James came about today, if we knew we had a 20-year LeBron career in front of us. There's a lot of talk. The reasons why he went to LA was close to Hollywood, and there would be chances to do things there that were outside the boundaries of a salary cap. I'm with you. And right on for the athletes. Like if you can get get it. That Lionel Messi was in a position to turn down $1 billion.
I don't even know what that. I don't even know what world that is.
Because he had options.
Yeah.
And and you know what? They can make a legitimate case that, you know what? If nothing else, we'll give you an opportunity in 10 years to buy an MLS franchise for $25 million, and that will turn into $1 billion on top of everything else that you're going to be compensated with. An incredible deal. And my daughter asked the same thing. When are we going to go see Messi?
See?
Every kid in America is asking their parents that.
Yes.
Which means it'll be like Hamilton tickets. When Hamilton first came out, you're not getting in the building for less than $1,000.
Nah. You can see them on tour now, but boy, back in the day, that was bad.
It was like, hey, Hamilton's here. Do you want to pay $800 for a ticket in the back? Yes.
And by the way, is it going to be one of these things like when you buy like LeBron tickets, he's like doing load management and then he doesn't play, but you're still screwed? Like, you know?
Yes. You know why? Because he's older, and a lot of these MLS teams play on turf. And like dudes don't want to wreck their knees on turf. So if you're one of these teams, let me put it to you like this. If he comes to Houston, he has to play in 100-degree heat on turf. He is taking that day off. He's like, wait a minute, where am I? The equator? No, this is Houston. And oh, by the way, that green thing you see is not really grass.
Fair enough.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you guys on Monday. And by we, I mean Anwar, and I don't know what he's got planned. He will figure it out. But the show goes on. Don't think that the content slows just because I'm going to be out of town for a few days. And it's not even a real vacation. I'll be working, but I just won't be doing the show. So anyway, for myself, for Anwar, for Blake, hey, this thing ended up being much better than we thought. Because if you missed it in the beginning, it was a little problematic at the beginning of the videos today. But we hung in there. We went an hour plus. We enjoyed it. Have a great weekend, fellas. Go Longhorns. Beat Stanford this weekend. Here's to Texas playing in the College World Series next weekend and providing Anwar all the additional content that he needs for Monday Overreaction, for the modcast, for everything. Until then, again, you guys have a great one. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you later.